Welcome back to Meet the Mission, where we showcase the people and projects driving innovation across Parsons. Today, we're taking you behind the scenes of one of the busiest airports in the world, Miami International Airport. From streamlining baggage systems to building state-of-the-art facilities, Parsons has been a trusted partner in keeping millions of passengers moving smoothly every year. Joining us are two leaders who've played a key role in making this success story possible. Jeff Kyser, Senior Program Director, and Rodrigo Ariza, Senior Vice President and Aviation Leader. Together, they'll share how Parsons helped transform baggage handling at Miami International Airport and what this milestone means for the future of aviation. Thank you so much for being here with us today. One of the things that our viewers tend to want to know a little bit about is where you guys are actually located. Parsons, being a global company, has a huge footprint, so it's just helpful to orient our readers to like your actual locations. So Jeff, where are you located most of the time?
I'm local to South Florida, so I'm almost equidistant between Miami and Fort Lauderdale.
Okay, perfect. And what about you, Rodrigo?
Candice, we're going to talk about Miami Airport. Happened that I'm a resident of Miami for many, many years, even though that most of the time I'm traveling, visiting all the airports around North America where Parsons have business.
Okay, and that's good to help, orient people to understanding kind of while your home base, right, is in Miami or in that local regional area, you can be anywhere at any given time because you're visiting all of the different locations. So that's really cool. All right. So I like to do one other thing before we get into the meat of what we're here to talk about today. We want to know you guys a little bit better. So I have some icebreaker questions for you. So the first one is, if you could design one dream feature for airports of the future, no budget, no limits, what would it be? I'll turn this one to you first, Jeff.
Okay. Mine is that I would like to have my baggage picked up at my front door, and I would like it transported to wherever my destination is, and I never have to bring it to the airport and haul it and check it in and then go find it on a baggage, conveyor afterwards, and it's all done for me.
Yeah, that I would love that. That eliminates a ton of stress, but then I'd add that I'd want somebody to pack my bags for me too, because that's even more stressful. But
Well, I have a wife.
what about you?
No, I don't
Oh,
really.
you have your
Actually,
wife for that? That's nice.
No, that's not true. I pack my own bags. I'm just kidding.
All right, what about you, Rodrigo?
I will not give you one. I'm going to give you two because I want to
Okay.
see that in the airport. I'm going to say of today or tomorrow or in the future. The first one is kind of related to what Jeff just mentioned, and is anything that help to eliminate queues. No, if you go to the airport, you need to get in a queue for parking. You get to get another one to check in, another one to go through the checkpoint. So it's too many of those. So anything in technology that make it a faster, safer and more secure, I would like to incorporate that in the airport, that we can go to that airport through in a very nice and a smooth way. And the second one is, I believe it's very, very important that the airport of the future consider the zero carbon emission, no? And that is a goal for the aviation industry by 2050, no? Zero carbon emission. So anything about electrification, automatization, sustainability, fuel, sustainable fuel, all those components that are going to make those airports of the future zero carbon emission is something that I would like to see there in the airports.
I love that. I don't think a lot of our viewers are aware that we're at the forefront of working through innovations as it relates to, those things. So that's really cool. All right. Next question, next icebreaker. Working in aviation means you've probably picked up a few travel hacks along the way. What's your number one tip for stress-free air travel? Besides this invention that we're going to make where, it takes it from your house, from your front door to the airport and checks your bag for you.
So for me, it's really no secret, and it's not a hack to anybody. It's TSA PreCheck and also Global Entry are just fantastic tools that really just relieve a lot of stress. if it's for myself, for my family, especially when, if children in tow as well, it simplifies things a lot. So that is, it's not a hack, but it's something that I have grown to love, and I'm not going to let it go.
Yeah. When I go to places that don't have like TSA pre-checks, so particularly coming back into the US, I'm like, oh no, I have to, you know, do the things that I'm not used to doing when I have TSA pre-check. And so it's always very disheartening. So
Well, and global entry is very good too, especially like coming back into MIA. MIA
yeah.
is a fantastic experience with global entry, and it's usually a pleasant ending to a fun trip, because when you've traveled internationally, it's, for me at least, most of the time it's for fun.
Yep. Me too. All right. What about you, Rodrigo? Working in
Uh,
aviation means you've probably picked up some hacks. So what's your
Yes,
go-to hack?
especially that I'm traveling quite frequently, pretty much every week. But I mean, Jeff already stole from what I want to say. No, I was really looking for. I mean, but definitely the expedite security screening programs like TSA pre-check or clear and others are very
Mhm.
important. And I try to have it all because not every airport is the same. So in some airports, I mean, Jeff mentioned, for example, global entry in Miami is fantastic, but not necessarily the same in all the airports. I mean, there is airport that, for example, the line for TSA pre-check is too long. So maybe an
Right.
option like clear that works. So I have it all in order, and depending on the airport, I pick one or the other. But if I want to add one more is, I mean, I have a different carry-on depending if I'm traveling 1 day or 2 days or 3 days or 4 days. I really, when I'm in business traveling, I'm trying to avoid checking my bag because I mean
Yeah.
the time that you spend checking the bag and then later picking up the bag is too much. So I really have different carry-on depending on the number of days, and that helped me through, you know.
That's a really good idea. I've
Mhm.
recently invested in one of those with like the laptop compartments, and I love those when I'm on
Mhm.
business travel because it's easily accessible, very handy. So I agree with that one.
Maybe one more that I want to add from a good friend of mine that she traveled a lot. I mean, is keep up with the fluids, no? Hydration,
Mhm.
important. I mean, you can get stressed just because you're not drinking enough water. So keep that in mind.
Absolutely. All right. Thank you so much for having a little fun with us and kind of, answering those things from your perspective. So now we can really dig into the meat here. So Rodrigo, can you give us a flyover, no pun intended,
Wow.
overview of Parsons' expertise in the aviation industry? What are our main roles in this space?
Right. I mean, as you know, Parsons has been in business for more than 80 years. Of those, I mean, more than 50 has been providing professional services to airports around the world. No, I mean, we have provided services to more than 450 airports around the world in more than 40 countries. So we have accumulated more than $200 billion in construction that we have support for multiple airports around the world. But I mean, our expertise today is more than anything is in program management services, construction management services, owner rep, delivery partner. I mean, we're one of the leaders on delivery partner, which is a new methodology of delivering complex and big programs. We are doing this in some of the biggest airports in the Middle East, and now, I mean, bringing that expertise to North America in general. Um, so that's probably the core of our business. But in addition to that, I mean, we provide planning and engineering services. We provide design services, especially everything on the land side on connecting that airport with the rest of the community, with train and all kind of means of transportations. On the technology side, we have a digital twins, cybersecurity, project management information systems, artificial intelligence, drone inspection. So we provide a set of technology solutions that help to deliver and implement those projects for our client. But one more time, the core of our services is program management, construction management, and delivery partner.
Okay. And what I love about that messaging is those are the core components, but you layered in, the innovation ideas. I heard digital twinning and other things that are great ways to, look at innovation opportunities in our core competencies. So I love hearing.
One additional competence that we have in the aviation sector is the services that we provide to the Federal Aviation Administration, FAA. We have been providing services to them for, multiple years, more than 20 years on the engineering and helping them to implement and manage their project.
If I may, I'd like to just add a little bit to that is something that was a little bit unique to Miami for Parsons was, much of our experience in Miami has been in construction, which is not standard of what we're typically used to delivering in aviation. And Rodrigo and I have played a huge part in that for many years. So, while we are delivering program management, construction management services as we head into the future, our past is a rich history of construction that makes up over half our careers each.
So to follow on that, Rodrigo, I just kind of want to dig in a little bit more. Can you tell us a little bit more about your background in the aviation industry and what led you to Parsons? I love, everything that Parsons represents, but what made you make that choice?
I'm a civil engineer by training, and I focus my career on big infrastructure projects and big programs, and transportation in general has been the majority of my experience there. And actually, I want to mention that when I was in college in one summer, I was an intern on a construction company, and I work in the airport in my hometown, and I was basically pouring concrete and doing survey for the taxiways of the airport. And I remember saying, this is not the work that I want to do. But you never know where destiny and your career is going to take you. So my first job already as an engineer in an airport, it was in Miami Airport in 1995. And I was working for a great construction company that actually was Parsons partner later on in some of the projects that we deliver for Miami Airport. And I started in 1995. And if I add all the years that I have been working in airports, probably have more than 25 years working in airports. So the majority of my career, which has been in infrastructure and transportation, has been basically on the aviation side.
I love that. So from pouring concrete to, leading these innovations and these initiatives, I love that story. What about you, Jeff? You've been with Parsons since 2001 and have worked on some incredible aviation projects. So what was your first experience working at Miami, and how has your role evolved since then?
So I started in Miami in 2007 on what was our North Terminal project. North Terminal was a large terminal, new construction and renovation of what used to be concourses A, B, C, and D, which were converted to just a concourse D ultimately in the end. And my role was I was the manager of the A to B portion, from concourse A to concourse B construction of that. And they made up nearly half of the North Terminal program. And then Rodrigo was my counterpart on the remainder, the B to D, for quite a long time as well. And since that time, I've evolved. We were essentially the number 3 person in a group in a large construction program. But my experience has since evolved to being the lead person for a number of projects that we've delivered here in South Florida. And my intent is to, lead a team into future endeavors at MIA for future pursuits that we intend to follow. And then I would like to add one more thing is I did play a little bit of a role in helping Rodrigo get into Parsons as well. So.
Oh, wait, you want to tell us a little bit more about that?
Oh, well, so Rodrigo and I, we started off on different teams. We were partners. We were construction partners in 2007, and our projects were, and we had. It seemed as though as time evolved, though, we kept finding ourselves in the same places, working on the same projects with things, whether it was together or across the table from each other. We had a role where we sat across the table from each other, and we just came to grow a great respect for each other, and there was an opportunity for a fabulous project in Mexico within Parsons, and just knowing what Rodrigo's capabilities were, I thought he would be a great fit for it. And so, I kind of grabbed my boss by the shirt collars and said, "You need to hire this person. He can help you." And and she was nervous at first because she didn't know him, but I was like, "You need to trust me on this one." And it worked out. It worked out fantastic.
Yeah, soon I'm going to be 10 years with Parsons, and I decided to, like Jeff mentioned, that was a great project. I decided to join Parsons for the complexity, the magnitude of the project that they manage in aviation. And Jeff is right, no? I mean, 10 years he have worked fantastic, no? I mean, he talked to his boss at that time, and she called me. I remember she called me on a Friday after Thanksgiving when I was doing Black Friday shopping. So it was kind of a difficult conversation, but that is basically a new chapter in my career, that phone call.
Yeah, I love that. And, that's one of those things where it just really speaks volumes about, relationships and community, right? And, having that like institutional knowledge and kind of leveraging the strengths of those that you've worked with before around you to create the best, environment and get the best program management possibilities. So I love that. So let's pull on that a little bit more. Rodrigo, can you tell us about how the long-standing partnership with MIA was established and like what else, besides having great people, right, working on the teams, has made it so successful over the years?
Yep. Parsons started working at Miami Airport in 1997 as part of the North Terminal Development Program, expansion of the North Terminal Program. And Parsons was working on the owners team, providing project controls services to that team, no? Later on, Parsons partnered with a company, Odebrecht, which was the company that I used to work before in the past, around year 2000, and we were able to win the construction for the South Terminal program or South Terminal project in around year 2001. And that started a long new chapter for Parsons under delivering construction for Miami Airport. No? At the end, we delivered about $2.5 billion of construction to that airport. South Terminal was the first one. Then later in 2005 came the North Terminal, another big program for Miami Airport, successfully delivering. I mean, this takes us to roughly around year 2008. We got a design build a contract in order to design and build the automated people mover. That it was delivery successfully, and it's one of the most successful projects ever done in Miami-Dade County.
Wow.
After that, roughly in a year 2011, there was other project that come. Probably Jeff can tell you a little bit more because at that time he was more closely involved than myself.
So yeah, and the story continues there. And by that point in time, Parsons Odebrecht joint venture, or POJV, was a household name around Miami. And you'd go through a checkpoint and someone would want to get your attention, one of the TSA guys, and they'd be like, "Hey, POJV." I remember him saying that to me, and right away I look, I'm like,
right,
but they know who we are. But our successes at North Terminal were so good. We had a $1 billion plus program where we never had a claim, and so it was really something that we were proud of, and we always finished every project on time. In fact, we had a Rodrigo and I were reminiscing about this the other day. We had a clock, we had a countdown clock in one of our conference rooms that every time you'd have a meeting, one of the topics that you discussed was that countdown clock and how much time you had before the next phase of the project opened. And we had how many openings did we have throughout? You
Well,
had
we have 47 milestones that were all, delivered
Wow.
all on time. 47.
Wow.
Yeah. And that clock, that darn clock, it was always like, kind of staring you down when you're in the meeting room, and it kind of puts you in your place to get things done. But we done so well on North Terminal that it evolved into a change order for us to renovate Concourse E, which was the next generation of significant renovation that the airport wanted to do. And that took us into the mid and late 2010s. And that project took us up till about 2018, and then entered the baggage handling job, which came out in about 2015, and we were successful there for that, and it carried us up into when we finally closed that out and turned over the keys fully in 2022 over to the airport.
So let's dig in there, right? Because I think that's a remarkable milestone with the baggage handling facility, which was a $230 million project with many moving parts. I'd love to know from your perspective, what is its significance, right? What are the significance of the impacts of delivering that for Miami? And then also, what do you think were some of the biggest challenges you faced during the baggage handling project?
So the baggage handling project was a project that TSA provided over $100 million worth of funding for to streamline the baggage process, and they actually doubled the speed at which they process baggage in the South and Central terminals. So that in and of itself was very significant. And basically what it was a full-scale replacement of the central terminal baggage system, which had become very, very antiquated, was 30 to 40 years old. And it was also a renovation of the south terminal baggage system, which we, as our team, had subconsultants that installed during our south terminal program in the early 2000s. So it was an somewhat aging system that it was a good system, but it had been predominantly designed prior to September 11th, 2001. Okay. And so it had some features to it that were kind of obsolete and needed to be upgraded. And so it resulted in about a 40 to 50% retrofit of the South Terminal baggage system as well. In the meantime, we built a 60,000 square foot new building that acted as the kind of the heart of the system, if you will, with what was called a CBIS, or checked baggage inspection system, on the first floor, and what was known as a CBRA, or a checked baggage reconciliation area, on the second floor. We also had added a brand new control room. So we built a new brain for the facility as well, and we had to essentially do a brain transplant of the building, if you will, while the patient was awake. And so that was pretty significant. So number of challenges that we dealt with were, first of all, you've got airlines in an operating facility, so you can only take down so much existing infrastructure at one point in time. So the design actually had 19 phases to it, of which often we even microphased inside of that. But each time that we changed a phase, we were working through one component of baggage that we were taking down. So we would take an airline that was on the land side, where you see the baggage conveyors that you pick up your bags at, and we'd consolidate, a couple of airlines from their normal spot to a different spot that they were sharing with others. So you had to be a little surgical about that, because it was something you didn't want to start something new near holidays or peak travel times, and you wanted to try to close out those and give everybody a little break during those times as well. And we had pretty good flexibility with all those phases that a lot of times we could accomplish it with little to no impact. But as is this situation with any, construction project, it does require a little bit of pain as well. The other challenge, again, was bringing this new control room on board. But, that process and bringing a baggage system to life has a great deal of simulation in it. So, our baggage handling contractor, they actually create a program and do an entire simulation in their testing facilities in their home offices. And they invited some of our folks to be part of that and witness that testing. And so having gone through multiple simulations of that, it was a practiced event where you actually were, unplugging the old system and plugging in the new system and flipping the switch on. So it worked out. It worked out very well, very seamless, I will say, and because of practice made perfect.
Yeah. Candice, couple of things impressed me a lot on the execution of this project. I mean, the first one is that dancing of macro facing and micro facing and how the team, because it was not a static. I mean, this was changing all the time, and how the team was able to orchestrate all this and make it happen. All this coordination of facing, was impressive, and also managing and communicating with significant number of stakeholders, and always giving the priority that the airport need to keep operating, it need to keep running, and the passengers need to be able to go to the planes and go to destination without any inconvenience from all this construction. That impressed me a lot on this job.
Yeah, I think it's very interesting to hear, not disrupting existing airline operations, right? With all of the phased execution, the communication. I mean, to me, that is super unique and something that I'd love to learn from your use cases on how we can do that in similar areas where we're deploying, like, I come from the cybersecurity realm, and we do, cybersecurity solutions for, large scale platforms, weapons and space platforms. And that is our day-to-day, like, understanding how you guys kind of walk through the execution. We could learn a lot of lessons from the successes that you guys have had from Miami Airport. So I think that's super interesting and would love to hear more. But also, one of the things I wanted to help our listeners or viewers understand was, with this 60,000 square foot facility that you guys referenced already, how many other, I guess, like in kind facilities are there that you know of? Like, what makes this facility for Miami unique as compared to maybe other airports?
So, if you remember, I referred to the first and second floor as the CBIS, or checked baggage inspection system, and the CBRA, the checked baggage reconciliation area. So what is happening in those two spots? On the first floor, you've got all of the bags that are going through machines that are scanning the bags for, anything that might look suspicious to them or curious and require some additional inspection. Anytime a bag does that, it's flagged in the system, and it heads up to a second floor where it can be physically inspected by a TSA agent. So what was unique to this building was that the second floor received, at the time, the world's largest set of mobile inspection tables. And what did that mean? That meant that instead of a floor full of conveyors that you can imagine flowing through a system, there was instead 104 robots following magnetic tape that had tabletops on them, that the system would take these suspect bags, deliver them upstairs via conveyor, dump them out on a table that drove itself over to an inspection agent's workstation. And he would open it up there, and he would inspect the bag, And once he was satisfied with his inspection, he'd close it up and he'd push a little button and he'd send that little guy along his way to dump it back into the system. And so, like I said, at the time, it was, I believe, the world's largest mobile inspection table deployment at the time. There were 104 tables. There were 52 stations, I believe. And again, this was something, the benefit of this was much more efficient dealing with the bags and processing baggage. There was great benefit to the TSA agents ergonomically, because they're not having to carry bags from a conveyor over to a table and put them back and bend and twist and move. They just they stay in their spot and you know, they could move around. So there was actually quite a lengthy article done on that MIA did when that was originally deployed, and it was, like I said, it was very unique and very cool. It was fun to go and play with the robots, if you will, because you had the chance. They would follow magnetic tape and they had sensors all around them, and they would stop whenever they sensed something in their way. So you stick your foot out, stick your hand out, you test them and see if they work. Of course, you didn't want to get in front of them. They're big enough to knock you down if they were really going to hit you, but they never did.
Failed.
So, yeah, but but no, they never did. They worked like a champ, and they're still operating great now.
Yeah, I love that. That sounds very cool. And I think it would definitely be a sight to see, especially when it was implemented, several years ago. And just to see, all of the advances that'll be made on that existing facility over time just sounds really cool.
Only less than 5 years ago. So those.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. You said the completion of it was in 2022, correct?
It was, but that was full completion. There were parts of it that got brought online as we worked through the project. We started opening things in 2018 and different sections. And then I believe the mobile inspection tables came online, and I believe right before COVID or or thereabout.
Okay, so let's talk, one of the things that people often have questions about are sustainability, right? We love to innovate and collaborate, and we get, a lot of advances over time, but how did sustainability factor into the design and construction of the baggage handling facility?
So the goal for this was LEED Silver, which is 50 LEED points, and so we were in a contractor's role, so we aren't the ones who create the application. That's the design team that does that. But we have a great deal of things that we need to do properly so that we don't mess up the process of what was it done properly? So do you earn the full points? So we actually had a lead consultant who helped guide us through all of that worked with us, whether it was, low emission paints or a waste management plan or whatever it was that helped us earn those points. They guided us through that. And then from an innovation standpoint too, is this was one of our earliest deployments of a project management information system known as Procore. There are a number of project management information systems out on the market now, and they've been up and coming. But back in 2016, when we deployed this, it was one of the earlier generations of getting this stuff out in project management software. And it was very useful in housing our project data, in managing our document control, and also it helped us bid out the projects. As the contractor, as the construction manager at risk, we held over 20 contracts with subcontractors, and we used Procore as a bidding mechanism, an automated bidding mechanism to control that process. And so, one of the good things about it was we had a system for answering questions and fielding questions and getting them back out to the bidders. And then, it was also excellent at, you had an automated system that was keeping time. So, Friday at 5 o'clock came and the bids were due, the system shuts off. And there were a few folks that turned in their bids at 5:02 and they didn't make it. And it's, right. And, they're like, can you help us? Can you help us? We're like, I'm sorry, the system, turned off. It's the system. It's a great way to promote fairness um but yes, the project management information systems are a big innovation that are spreading out like wildfire now throughout the industry.
I love that. And so that kind of piggybacks on, my next question for you guys about, coordination, right? This is the other side of it. With so many stakeholders involved, including the airlines, TSA, airport management, how do the teams ensure effective communication and coordination throughout the project? And, I'd love to hear from both of you on your thoughts there. And I know, Rodrigo, earlier you did mention the effective communication and collaboration was essential to, delivering the phases. So what do you think? I'll start with you, Jeff, and then piggyback to you, Rodrigo.
So in the baggage handling system, we knew we were a product of what we had learned from the previous programs, really. And that was, you know, the meetings that we needed to have operational coordination with all of the stakeholders. But another key part of keeping the program moving is also making sure you're resolving issues and you're getting changes processed and you're moving money and flowing money to your subcontractors because, a lot of them are a lot smaller. That's the lifeblood of what makes them breathe.
Right.
So that also involves training of how they do business at the airport, and how to properly ask questions, RFIs, and how to properly process submittals and how to properly send out pay applications and things of that nature. But like I said, a lot of what we did that worked very well for us, and the reason that baggage handling went so smooth was the lessons we learned from the previous programs that, I think Rodrigo can speak a lot to as well.
For the success of any major program or complex program like we see in airports, um, stakeholder management is one of those key ingredients. I mean, we need to be intentional. We need to be proactive to manage the stakeholders. We cannot just be passive on that. There are so many stakeholders around the airport, and we are to some extent sometimes coming to implement projects that are have the connotation of disruption to their operation. So it's very, very important to manage that. And when I say intentional and proactive, is we need to identify all the stakeholders. We need to plan on how we're going to communicate with them, and then we need to communicate with them. Because sometimes, I mean, the plan is done, but there is no communication. No, communication
Right.
needs to be constant and all the time. And the early that you involve the stakeholders. I mean, if we're working in a project that where we get involved on the early planning, on the early design, we need to start involved in the key stakeholder to the beginning, no? So having the plan, communicate with them, keep them engaged is very, very important. It's one of the key ingredients for success, not only on this BHS project that Jeff was part of, but also in any project that we do or we carry on in airports.
And so, speaking of that, so there's the communication and the collaboration. What else, in your opinion, Rodrigo, has allowed Parsons, who's delivered $2.5 billion worth of work, right, just for Miami, right?
Mhm.
What are other things that we think are key to consistently exceeding our goals and delivering
Mhm.
successful projects overall?
I mean, looking backward to uh, 24 years of providing services to Miami airports and successful projects, implementation, successful projects on a joint venture for construction. I can say that having a clear mission, that the team have a clear mission. And it's not only the mission of Parsons or POJB, but it's the mission also of the client is very important. And communicate that mission to all the members of the team is very, very important.
Mhm.
Um, partnering, partnering with all the parties, no? It's not a partnering just between the builder and the owner or the designer and the owner, or I mean, it's bringing all the people together, create the right environment for partnering and collaboration. It has been another aspect of the success that Parsons had at Miami Airport. And I'm going to say also bring the right people, no? I mean, I believe we were very intentional and selective on assembling the teams to deliver those projects to Miami Airport.
You know, in the words of our late great leader, Mr. Dave Brown, who was a superstar in Parsons for many, many years, you know, he coined the phrase, teamwork gets you there. And
Yeah.
he, you know, paraded that through the halls and put it on the walls and promoted it wherever he could. And, you know, it made a difference in the culture of the place that you worked. And that culture, when it's infectious, once you get it amongst everybody and they're working together and you see the success start happening, it snowballs, and it snowballs in the right direction. You know, so
Absolutely. So, in closing, because we're wrapping up with our time together today, I think, because you guys have so many experiences and so much to share, right, with lessons learned and, key takeaways. I want to ask you both, like, to leave our listeners or our viewers, depending on what platform they're consuming this on, what advice would you give to either other teams or organizations who are also working these types of complex, large-scale aviation projects? Or what advice would you give to people who are looking to pursue careers in, aviation projects? What is something that we can walk away with from you guys that kind of would resonate with our listeners? So I'll start with you, Rodrigo, and then we'll finish up with you, Jeff. But go ahead. What would you leave our listeners with?
I have to smile because you asked me for the recipes of success, no? And
Yep.
I'm a little bit hesitant, no? Sometimes
Yeah.
I ask, what is the recipe? And my aunt doesn't give me the recipe for that great pie, no? But anyway, I'm going to give you at least what I believe are kind of, uh, key factors for the success of those projects that we delivered in the previous 24 years to Miami Airport and other projects that delivered to other airports around the world. Probably the first one is have a clear governance. No, you need to establish roles, responsibilities, and something very, very important: how and who make decisions. You need to have
Mhm.
that clear. No, if there is no clarity on if there is not a clear governance, I mean, all these complex projects, all these big projects, I'm gonna suffer a lot. So roles and responsibilities, and how you're gonna make decision and who's gonna make decision. The second thing is like something that I already mentioned before is have a create environment of partnership and collaboration. Be sure that the leadership promote partnership and collaboration. It's not about going to a battle. It's about
Mhm.
working together. It's a team sport, and we need to understand that. Um, Probably the other thing that is very important because I see some teams sometimes failure is because don't have the right system to manage data. Today, we generate so much data when we're managing one of these big projects or when we're managing a portfolio of multiple projects for any of our airport clients. So be sure that you have the data governance. Be sure that you have a system that allows to organize and process information so you can make decisions. No. Um, and probably the most important, take care of the people. Take care of the people that you bring to the team to deliver, that will be kind of some of the pieces of the recipe.
I love that. All right, what do you think, Jeff? What would you leave our listeners with?
well, I mean, for one thing for sure is money is the lifeblood of a project, of a successful project. And when you flow money, you keep the project healthy and you keep all the players healthy that you need to perform for you. So it's very important that you establish a process that flows money efficiently and moves changes along as well. And then something that I really think I learned more from it from Rodrigo than anyone else is resolving the issues. Is like don't don't leave the meeting without a path forward to resolution, or, don't just say, oh, we'll tackle that next meeting, or we'll do this next meeting. He was always in these meetings. He was very persistent. He was like, we need to, this is the problem, and we need to address it. And to the point where, it would, sometimes people get flustered with it, but yeah. It's kind of like going for a checkup. If you have some type of issue or you have a problem and you ignore it, it doesn't get better, it gets worse. And so yes, resolving the issues is also very important. And then the other point that you brought up is, as far as like, early career professionals looking for, something in aviation or aviation construction type of thing. Do your time in the field early on, because you learn. That's where you learn and you understand, that's where things are happening and why they happen. And a lot of the issues that you deal with later come as a result, and how to solve them come as a result of understanding how they work in the field, and why you're doing something, why you're doing this, why you want to accelerate this component of the schedule to save money on the back end, or why you would want to build something temporary to create a workaround, and being able to, having been in the field and being able to visualize it, helps you solve bigger problems later on in your career.
Absolutely. I love that advice, and I love that, depending on the audience that's here today, there's a lot of different folks that will tune in. And so they'll get to hear, a well-rounded view between the both of you about what it takes to be successful in such a, important mission space, right? With a lot of critical deliveries and critical milestones, complexity, but also a lot of thought leadership. So I think it's a very unique combination of all of those things. So I love that you guys were here to share kind of your insights and tidbits for us. So thank you, Jeff and Rodrigo, for taking us inside this incredible project and sharing how Parsons continues to innovate in aviation. From modernizing baggage handling to building sustainable passenger-focused facilities, your team's work at MIA is a true example of mission success. Again, for our listeners, if you'd like to learn more about Parsons' aviation expertise and projects across the globe, visit parsons.com. And don't forget to subscribe, depending on whatever platform you're listening to this on, so you never miss an episode of Meet the Mission. Until the next time, keep innovating and keep moving forward. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.